We often find that records and paperwork that we look at in services don't actually match what we see in practice. And generally you can get a really good picture of what life is like, especially for people who have communication difficulties, who you maybe cannot talk to, cannot interview in any formal or informal sense to find out about how they perceive their lives. So observation gives you a chance to see what the people are doing, how staff are interacting with individuals, the nature of those interactions, whether they're positive or less positive, and what they're doing well to improve the outcomes for the individuals that they're supporting. So observation gives us a really important tool to be able to get that kind of picture. Now, quite often it's a snapshot of what happens, but research that we've done over many years has shown that that snapshot is usually representative of what you see. You know, one of the things we know if you're observing, for example, things like engagement and active support, is that staff cannot fake this. You know, if they're not doing it on a day-to-day basis, they're unlikely to suddenly be able to do it when you are there observing. And so we do suggest that you observe for a slightly longer period of time, so maybe half an hour or an hour if you can at any one time, to allow people to get used to your presence, to being observed. But in general, we don't find that that people change what they do when we're observing. The other issue that people sometimes raise with us is, and when we're, for example, seeking consent to observe, or when we're going in, is they say the staff don't really like the idea of observation because it's not part of their culture in many places, and therefore they feel it's likely to be critical and it's going to be difficult for them. In services where observation is part of the everyday kind of monitoring, then it's a lot easier. Staff are much more comfortable with an observer there and just get on with what they're doing. But generally people will say that the individuals themselves won't like to be observed, that they'll say, oh, it'll be too disruptive, for example, you can't come and watch this person. In general, we find that people love being observed, and sometimes the problem is that we are the most interesting thing in the environment. And so they'll come and try and talk to you as you're observing, to interact, to show you things. And so you have to get quite good at being as unobtrusive as possible, but polite. You have to get good at not making eye contact, not intervening, you know, sort of being very clear that just for now you are standing back and observing and watching. And I've generally found that people have never held it against us, as long as when we finished observing, we make a clear sign that we finished, and then we socialise, we respond to what they wanted to show us, we go and see and we talk to them afterwards, and people generally will not find that a problem. And usually I found that people really like having visitors there, watching what they're doing, and seeing what they're up to. When you're observing, it's really tempting sometimes to make allowances for staff who are working with people with very severe disabilities or very severe challenging behaviour, for example, because it appears that the job is really difficult. However, we know that it's possible to support people to live really good lives despite the level of severity of their disability or the presence of problems such as autism or challenging behaviour. Remember that you are rating what you see when you observe, not the effort that staff are putting in or the difficulty of the job that they appear to be doing. It is important that we have a true kind of rating of what's happening, so that we can help teams to improve their practice over time and therefore improve the outcomes for the people that they support.